Wow, Pokemon Go is 10 years old. Do you remember where you were when the game dropped? I do. When the game first came out, I never really thought about the idea of still playing all these years later. I was a completely different person. But here we are anyway. My name is Carcass8, and this is my Pokemon Go retrospective. To celebrate, I'm going to be sharing old screenshots of the game, showing off a bit of my collection and telling stories along the way. You can expect to see a list of my oldest Pokemon from 2016, some of my old AR Snapshots, my top 10 memories list, all of my Shundos, stories like the first Pokemon Go Fest, and the complete journey of my very first Pokemon in the game, Charmander, as he evolves alongside the game into Charizard. If you're looking for a deep dive analysis or a meticulous timeline of all things Pokemon Go, you're in the wrong place. But if the vibe you're looking for is your best friend showing you his phone and yapping away for over an hour, that's me, baby. Days gone by. Pokemon Go dropped in a weird era of gaming for me. The last Pokemon game I had was Pokemon Soul Silver on the Nintendo DS. I remember being made fun of one time I brought it to play on the train during high school, so I kind of put it away. Suffice to say, it had been a few years since I played Pokemon, and I do remember probably catching a post from Cerebi about the game launching. So, when it came to July 6, 2016, I was in a cabin with no data, taking summer college classes in Michigan. Sometimes I wonder what it would have been like in Chicago. The stories I heard about large groups of people forming to catch Pokemon we don't even click on anymore seems incredible. But not me. I was in the parking lot trying to download the game because that's the only place I had signal. It took a while, and once I finally got past the "our servers are experiencing issues" page, I was able to start my journey. For me, there was never even a question. Charmander was going to be my starter Pokemon, just like in 2005 when I picked Charmander in Fire Red. And that was pretty much my first day. There was one more day while I was in Michigan when I made my way into town for laundry. This seems to be the first screenshot I took of the game, just 5 days in. You can see my first catches were Bellsprout, Pidgey, Venonat, and Weedle. You can also see I had powered up Charmander a couple times. I remember thinking that was kind of a stupid choice I made, because Charmander candy was not easy to come by, and it would take me even longer to evolve it. And as for choosing my team, I went with Team Instinct, represented by the legendary Pokemon Zapdos. Hey, the name's Spark, the leader of Team Instinct, he said. Pokemon are creatures with excellent intuition. I bet the secret to their intuition is related to how they're hatched. Come on and join my team. You'll never lose when you trust your instincts. It's so funny to see how much has changed. The graphics and models look a bit different. The gyms worked in a different way. You used to be able to battle your own Pokemon that you leave at the gym. Furthermore, I'm sure some old heads are still lamenting at how the coins used to be distributed back in the day. Do you guys still remember the nearby feature? I went crazy looking for that Almanite. I could not find it for the life of me. I know this is a more recent change, but even the player model used to look different. People still talk about that too. But I suppose customization has gone a long way, especially since you can make your character pose now. Hey, does anyone else miss Jesse and James when they used to appear in the rocket balloons? Like, I've beat Giovanni a million times. Let me battle against my favorite rocket duo. My oldest Pokemon. I still have 18 Pokemon that I caught back in 2016. I'll talk about Charizard in particular later, but we've got Crobat, Machamp, Lapras, Gyarados, Arcanine, Magmortar, Raichu, Gengar, Blastoise, Jinx, Golduck, Pichu, Santa Hat, Raichu, Kabutops, second Crobat, Magby, and Santa Hat, Pikachu. Okay. So, I actually forgot. I also have 4 more Pokemon from 2016 on Pokemon Home. That includes Nidoking, Tentacruel, Rhydon, and Togekiss. Wow, I completely forgot some Pokemon made their way onto Pokemon Home too. Now, I don't have strong memories about every single one, but there are certainly some highlights in the bunch. Gold the Crobat is the Pokemon. First things first, Crobat had the nickname Red for a bit, before it made it be a Charizard exclusive name. Anyway, my friends drove up to Michigan to pick me up and hang out once my classes were over. I know for sure I had caught a Pidgeotto, or possibly a Pidgeot, on the way home. If it was a Pidgeot, that was crazy. I remember my friend Juan had been like, dude, I worked so hard to evolve mine, and you just caught one? God, I wish I still had that Pidgeot. Either way, what I had really hoped to catch instead was a Zubat. And sure enough, the very day I got home, which was on July 17th, that's exactly who I encountered. Over the years, I put in a lot of work into evolving, powering up, and eventually earning the best buddy ribbon despite the horrendous stats. But this was my first Zubat, and since Crobat was my favorite Pokemon, I knew that someday it would mean a lot to me. I must have caught this Machamp when it was still a Machop on July 25th, and it's important to keep in mind that we did not have an appraisal system yet for at least another month. So, the Pokemon you kept were simply the ones that had a high combat power. It would turn out that this Machamp had 14 attack, 14 defense, and 15 HP, which makes it nearly perfect. But I didn't know that. I just saw a big number, and man, this Machamp was my guy. I would absolutely use him to take down gyms all the time. And now that I have Shundos and all of these other Pokemon and mechanics, he's a bit obsolete. But I don't care, man. He's my GOAT. If I remember correctly, Lapras was hatched from an egg, and apparently he's from the same day as Machamp. They were absolutely not common at all. So, when I managed to add this one to my team, man, I was excited. And obviously, gym defending and gym attacking meta were different back in the day. I mean, there were no Blissies. I don't know how true this was to the wider game, but for me, Lapras was an absolute legend. He's another one alongside Machamp that I used to use for gyms all the time. Unfortunately, he just didn't have the same staying power as Machamp did for so long. It's crazy to think his stats were so good, too, with it just missing a single point from defense. I just like Lapras because he was rare. Okay, Gyarados deserves to be on my top 10 list, but I'm going to talk about him now. I vaguely remember hatching Magikarp and it being a high CP, and then not thinking about it at all. I mean, you need 400 candies to evolve it. When the appraisal system dropped, I don't know how long it took for me to realize that it was a hundo all along. Yup, literally 1 month into the game. Sure. Seeing the stars load in one by one until the orange turns red, that's satisfying. But do you know how satisfying it is for Spark to show up and say, overall, your Magikarp looks like it can really battle with the best of them. Its stats are the best I've seen. No doubt about it. God, I still shiver when I read that. Okay, I don't have a crazy story for the rest. This Arcanine is the one from my old screenshot. Golduck is another 2016 hundo. And yes, these are the first Santa hats on Pikachu. This second Crobat is my best attempt at a good IV one for a long time. But still not a hundo. Old AR Snapshots. Once upon a time, I took a ton of AR Snapshots in Pokemon GO. And I used to post them on my personal Instagram page while I still had one. For the most part, every snapshot is one I took of a wild Pokemon. So, sometimes I'd open the game, and I'd get inspired by imagining that Pokemon in the environment I was in. There was no Niantic AR, no reality blending. Pokemon were basically static and forward-facing permanently. So to get a good photo with good proportions, you had to get creative. Here are some of my favorites I took over the years. Okay, this miniseries started off with Arcanine. I mean, you get it, right? Arcanine in front of the Art Institute lions, right? You can just see the vision without an explanation. Man, I loved this one. It's definitely not the first one I ever posted, but it's one of my first favorites from 2017, and I was so quick to iterate with the legendary beasts. I mean, the Entei one got over 100 likes on it. OMG, Voltorb at the White Sox game. This pair is so funny because they were taken about 2 years apart. The first in 2017, the second in 2019, and you can see the difference in how they used to handle the models. I had a lot of fun imagining what it'd be like if Voltorb was the baseball and it was hit into the crowd. Of course, that never happened to me in real life, but still, go Sox! I love, like you have no idea. I loved taking snapshots of Pokemon doing super mundane things. Pretending Alakazam is a street performer? Humorous. Oh, Jinx is waiting for the bus? Hilarious. Bro, Primeape on the platform waiting for the train? Hysterical. Honestly, these are probably the kinds of photos I miss taking the most. Y'all, this one is my magnum opus. This snapshot was back when they first announced Pokemon Sleep in 2019. And they had a little event featuring Snorlax to tie it in. Snorlax would appear to be sleeping on their back in the overworld, as well as the capture screen. And they all knew the exclusive move, Yawn. Obviously, Pokemon Sleep didn't come out until 2023. But man, just think about how iconic Snorlax was in Red and Green. And imagine having the opportunity to recreate it yourself. Where would Snorlax fall asleep? What could possibly be as disruptive? For me, it was imagining Snorlax falling asleep downtown right on the train tracks. If a Snorlax did that to me in real life, it'd probably ruin my day. But it would be so cool nonetheless. And my caption was so goofy. I posted, "Massive delays on the train this morning. Gonna play a flute to pass the time." Okay, by this snapshot in October 2019, the AR technology was already better. You can send out Pokemon, and for the most part, it'd stay where it was and you'd be able to move around to get some interesting shots. So of course, there's this bull sculpture right outside the Cultural Center in Chicago that I had to photograph with Tauros. I tried to style it as if it were mid-battle, like the opening intro to Pokemon Red with Nidorino and Gengar. I posted this picture on my local Pokemon GO group back in the day, the one that I used to moderate, and it had over 350 reactions. When I say the adrenaline rush I got from that, in addition to all of the comments, bruh, forget about it. This was from one of the last meetups I hosted for that Pokemon GO group in 2022. I got to Navy Pier a little early and wanted to get a good photo of this costume Lapras, and it came out so perfect. Like, man, what a beautiful thing we are able to do. This is something so extra that we really don't need in a game like this, but it's what makes it special. To be able to imagine a world where Lapras can be chilling at Navy Pier, I don't know, man. That's beautiful. I posted this on Twitter back in the day, and Niantic themselves retweeted it. That recognition was very much appreciated. In 2017, when I posted all of those original snapshots, I was just having fun. I didn't really follow anyone else posting AR Snapshots, but once I started getting more connected with the wider community, I was definitely inspired by others, especially after all the big improvements to the AR technology. AR photographers such as Kitty Pokemon's a Lot, Ash Ketchup, Growlithe Girl, Hex Manifesto, Mythical Lace Snaps, and Pokemon Snaps were all super influential to me. And so this snapshot of Butterfree I took in 2022 is directly inspired by techniques I've seen from them and the community. To get it to appear this size, you gotta play with the focal point just a bit to trick the camera into thinking the Pokemon was somewhere else instead. And look at that. Imagine if any regular old butterfly was actually a Butterfree instead. That's what these AR photos let me see. God, I hope I one day get back to making these kinds of photos. They're so fun. These days, there are so many Pokemon to imagine doing so many things. I'm glad there are a ton of people out there still using this feature. Top 10 memories. It's actually so hard to choose just 10 Pokemon to show off. Do you choose your 10 strongest Pokemon, the 10 rarest, your 10 favorite? What makes a Pokemon memorable? Obviously, everyone values things differently, especially in this game. So I cheated a little bit. Obviously, I've already talked about a bunch of memorable moments in other sections. Several of those easily deserve to be discussed here. But instead, I'll consider them honorable mentions. For example, my very first Hundo in the game, Gyarados, should be in here. It's actually crazy that my first Hundo eventually was able to Mega Evolve. The Zubat I caught that evolved into my first Crobat is obviously on this list if I hadn't already talked about it. And my starter, Charizard, would be on this list if I didn't already have a whole section dedicated to just it. Instead, here are 10 Pokemon who are tied to a specific memory or story I'd like to share in chronological order. Now, I know you must be thinking, Carcass 8, besides the 3 you just mentioned, I only count 9. Where's the 10th? My dear Heckler, that's the first one on the list. Muck, the first raid Pokemon. Do you still have your first ever raid Pokemon? Do you even remember what your first ever raid Pokemon was? I do. Raids and the gym rework had just dropped. And I remember a few days after when I was in downtown Chicago, and I had the explicit thought in my head. I literally went, let's try this new raid thing. It was June 26, 2017. I was a little bit scared to try it because I was worried my Pokemon wouldn't be strong enough. But sure enough, my first ever raid was a solo Muck. Muck of all Pokemon. I was kind of hoping I'd have a cooler first raid Pokemon like Feraligatr. But in retrospect, Muck is such a cool Pokemon. I really like being able to say my first raid Pokemon was Muck. And it's been so long, I thought I had lost it to time. But in the process of writing this script, you already know I had some besties hidden in Pokemon Home. Lugia, the first Pokemon Go Fest, Chicago 2017. Bro, the very first Pokemon Go Fest in 2017 was infamous. The hype around it was crazy. It felt like everybody wanted to go. And it was going to happen right here at Grand Park in Chicago. Like, people were flying to Chicago just to play Pokemon Go. I was so happy that I managed to score a ticket along with some friends. I still have my bracelet, along with an extra from a friend who couldn't go last minute. You've already heard the same story about this day dozens of times. My friends and I arrived to find a long, winding line that wrapped through and around the Buckingham Fountain. I have an AR photo I took while in line of Diglett, with a caption that says, 2 hours later and we're still not in. My friend Joss also took a photo while in line. Actually, we still bring up all these years later how we were sunburnt before we even got into the park. Once we got in, naturally, we had no connection and could hardly play. I'm pretty sure my phone would not work at all, no matter where we walked in the park. Walking around, it was interesting to see what the vision of the original event was meant to be. There were tents with each team's corresponding mascots in different parts of the park, and a stage where apparently everybody booed Niantic CEO John Hanke. I don't know, man. I'm glad I didn't fly to Chicago from another part of the world just to not be able to play the event. I am glad I got to hang out with my friends, however. And they were trying. Once it was clear it was not working, they opened up the game to basically the rest of the downtown area. And now that's where the magic happened. Just seeing the entire area filled with people playing Pokémon GO, catching rare Pokémon and having fun. I still have some unknown in Heracross from that first day. And the second day, when they announced that Articuno and Lugia were going to be in raids, man, that was fun. When there was all of this news of a lawsuit, I'm gonna be honest, I purposely ignored it. Niantic refunded the price of the ticket and rewarded $100 worth of coins in-game as an apology. That's honestly why I had so much Pokemon storage for years. As someone who lived in the city, I was pretty much just hanging out. I remember feeling that the apology was enough for me since I didn't spend any money on travel or lodging. Perhaps my favorite souvenir from the game is the Lugia they distributed as an apology. I must have caught more than a handful of Lugia from the event, but I don't have any of them anymore, except the gift one. I went a couple of years without even knowing it was special, until I heard people saying you could search costume and the gift Lugia would come up. And I still had mine. Man, to this day, I would love to max it to level 50. I just don't raid as much like that anymore. I did use an Elite TM much later to give it the exclusive move Aeroblast once that was added to the game. And one of these days, I should really put some time into getting it the Best Buddy ribbon. It's actually so cool to have these photos and this memento from my time at that event. Good event or bad event, it's still a cherished memory I have of the game. One last thing, when I was an admin for the Pokemon GO Chicago squad, God, I hated when people were soliciting trades for this thing. Man, it's only special for those of us who were there. It's not special in any other way. It's not actually wearing a costume, guys. It would be kind of cool if they retroactively gave it a little badge they made of the Chicago skyline. Gyarados, the first shiny Pokemon. Do you remember your first shiny? Like in any game, surely you remember your first shiny Pokemon in Pokemon GO at least, right? I know some of us have thousands of shinies, but isn't the first one special? I remember my first shiny in Pokemon GO, and wait, God damn it, how is it always Gyarados? How does this keep happening? Okay, but for real. Shiny Magikarp was added into the game in March 2017 for the Water Festival event as the very first shiny in the game. And I caught mine in August. And it was kind of cool. I was with the same friend I went to Go Fest with riding the water taxi in Chicago, when one of the Magikarp I clicked on turned out to be shiny. It was so cool. I took an AR snapshot of it on the boat. If I had any composure, I would have taken a cooler pic of it in the river, but I suppose seeing it flop around is funnier. Gyarados isn't winning any awards in the stats department, but, if I had to choose a second Pokemon to give a gold bottle cap, it'd be this Gyarados. Keeping in mind that my very first hundo was already a Gyarados, I think this one deserves it anyway. I've already gotten it all maxed out as a Mega, so it's just ready to go whenever. Raikou, the first legendary hundo. Here's my honest opinion. Hundos are more exciting to catch than shinies in Pokemon GO. What? You're gonna get 30 shinies on Community Day, and you're lucky if you catch a hundo. Plus, the Pokemon I want to invest in are gonna be the ones with the most potential. I know what you're saying. Strong Pokemon, weak Pokemon. That is only the selfish perception of people. Truly skilled trainers should try to win with their favorites. Well, listen up, Karen. You don't know how many Pokemon I powered up to level 40 or even 50 just because they were a hundo. I even powered a Pokemon with just horrendous stats. So cut me some slack, okay? I'm not even trying to win. I caught Raikou as my 5th ever hundo Pokemon in 2017. And man, the obsession. It's poison. Every single Pokemon Go influencer out there has the goal of catching all the hundos, or dare I say, Shundos of the legendaries, right? But at what cost? Literally. So I remember thinking, now that I have this hundo, I want to make it my goal to catch the other two, Entei and Suicune. The Generation 2 Pokemon games are my home games, so I figure it was all the more reason. I still remember where I caught Raikou. As soon as I caught Raikou, this guy was my main electric attacker for years. In fact, I'm positive it still ends up on rotation despite all the other options. Magnezone, the first shiny I shared to the Pokémon GO Chicago squad. This Pokemon is a good example of my crash outs at the beginning of this section. Magnezone is not a particularly strong, rare, or valuable Pokemon. It's not one of my favorites to really ever use. It doesn't have particularly good stats, and it's not really one I think of often. It is the very first shiny I remember posting to the Pokemon GO Chicago Squad Facebook group. I caught it on November 24, 2018. Hang on. I just spent easily half an hour verifying something. This appears to be my 2nd ever shiny Pokemon on Pokemon GO. There was a brief second of doubt when looking at Pokemon Home, and I had a couple of Cyndaquil from that community day, but I was like, hang on, there's no way I caught those. I put on my detective hat and everything and figured it out. Those Cyndaquil must have been traded to me before being transferred to Home. I know this because I actually broke my phone on November 20 that year and didn't get a new phone until after that date, which also means I had not played Pokemon Go until getting that new phone. Crazy. I also apparently caught a shiny Pikachu 2 days later. And you know what? I do remember that. Making that post about catching this Magnemite is the whole reason I became so involved in the community. For Alligator, the first community day I attended. I really wanted to play the big community day wrap up in December 2018, but I'd scheduled time to hang out with my friends instead. And man, I remember playing in the car and catching a few that way. Technically, that would be my first ever community day played. But don't be fooled by the technicality. I'd say my first true community day was Totodiles in January 2019. That was really the first time I, 1, played with a community, and 2, played for the entire day. Or rather, whatever Niantic thinks a day is. And that day was so insane. That first community day I participated in was crazy. I remember it being super cold while we met up at Navy Pier. The best spawn point is at the tip of the pier, but you couldn't reach it from the inside. So, every now and then, we popped out for a few minutes before running back inside for warmth. And I remember the second community day for Swine Up was the same. Do I wish I knew what the first actual community day was like? Yeah. Is it weird that I kinda missed an entire year of community days without even knowing it? Yeah. Would I have it any other way? No, actually. My life is simply my life. and I'm okay with that. Meltan, the first Nundo. This is not my first Meltan in the game, but it is a special Meltan. This Meltan is especially lacking in every stat. Yes, this is my first Nundo that I know of. It's technically possible for me to have transferred another Nundo along the way, but what I love is the uniqueness of this particular Nundo. You know, it's actually rare to have a Pokemon with 000 as its stats than to have a Hundo with 15, 15, 15. Eggs, raids, trades with higher friendship levels, and even weather boosts all have IV floors that make it impossible to have a 0 in all stats. So, other than the fact that it's a Nundo, which can be rare, what makes this Pokemon so special? Well, Meltan is kind of a unique Pokemon in Pokemon GO. It was introduced, or rather, teased, after Chikorita Community Day in 2018 for about half an hour. I don't know why I still remember this. I must have seen it online or something. But you would click on this weird abomination of a Pokemon that no one has ever seen before, and it kind of looked like a glitched out Ditto. And, well, after clicking it, it simply turned out to be a Ditto. And man, that was a cool experience. Just seeing people speculate about this being a Ditto evolution, or Niantic accidentally creating their own missing no was so cool. It was special. It was a special thing to experience. And then, when it was officially announced and released into the game, mwah, what a chef's kiss. You had to use Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee to import a Pokemon from Go to the Switch in order to access the mystery box on Go. That item would essentially be an incense just for Meltan. The other way to gain access to that mystery box was to transfer a Pokemon from Go to Pokemon Home. This is Pokemon Go's Pokemon, if you get what I mean. There's only so many of those where you need Pokemon Go in order to get a particular Pokemon. So, to look back and see that my first remaining Nundo is basically a Pokemon Go exclusive Pokemon, man, that's special. Even if it's only because it's especially bad. I mean, I still haven't even caught a Hundo, and man, I've been trying. Entei, the first Shundo. Do you remember your first Shundo in Pokemon Go? Like, okay, I get it. You have so many Shundos. How can you even remember each one? Wait, what's that? Some of you guys still haven't caught a Shundo? And you're grabbing your pitchfork and heading towards Falador to riot? Oh, okay, well, hang on. I used to be one of you. After catching that Hundo Raikou, I wanted to get a Hundo of the other legendary beasts. So I joined Pokemon GO Chicago Squad's raid events in 2019, each time hoping to complete my collection. So there we are at Millennium Park. I was literally just talking about how I had not ever caught any Shundo Pokemon, but that I didn't care about hunting for them. They'll spawn on their own time, I said. They'll come when they come, I said. And then I saw that sparkle. And the CP said 1984. It was the shiny. It was the Hundo. It was the combination shiny Hundo. Okay. It was both. My first Shundo spawned right then and there to humble me, because it turned out I cared a lot. One of my favorite legendaries from my childhood, and it granted me glory like I'd never know again. Bidoof, the best event ever, TBH. Talking about glory, actually. What do you consider the best event Pokemon GO ever had? If your answer was anything other than the Bidoof breakout in 2021, you're wrong. You're so wrong. Even Pokemon themselves declared July 1st as Bidoof Day. There were several days in a row where you caught so many Bidoof, and each day they granted more and more XP per catch, and as a treat, Bidoof was able to learn moves it normally wouldn't learn, like Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, and Shadow Ball. My buddy Jason and I legit played and got so much XP. We played so much. I caught 4 Shundos on that day alone, and got another in a lucky trade. To this day, if I need an excellent throw for a task and I see a Bidoof, I am so relieved. I know this is one of the more inconsequential Pokemon on the list, but it's just a good memory. We rode the bus up and down the city so many times, just hanging out and having a good time. I absolutely cherish that memory. Grookey, the Seattle Trip Hundo. My final Pokemon on this list could have easily been any other Pokemon. I just caught my first Shadow Hundo from a Rocket Grunt a couple of days ago. Just the other day, I caught my first Shiny from a Dynamax raid. I have 17 Shadow Pokemon who are also Shiny, with one of them being Crobat. But what I wanted to highlight instead were Pokemon I caught while traveling. And again, I have a lot of options. Do I choose a Pokemon I caught when I visited New York? I have some Bufflant from Virginia. What about when I did Teddy Ursa Community Day in Texas? Or the Shadow Onyx I caught in Disney World with my nephew that I purified into a Hundo. So then, what's the deal with Grookey? It's not my first Dynamax Hundo. I caught one of those a month later, and now it's a maxed out Rillaboom. This one's special because of where I caught it, Seattle. I'm fortunate enough to do so much traveling in my adulthood, and it probably comes from the 2 times I visited Mexico as a kid. Those were such big events in contrast to never going anywhere else. And while there were a few trips I made with friends and family as an adult, the ones I'm going to remember the most are the trips I took entirely by myself. First to Denver, then Seattle, then Orlando. I honestly never really thought I'd find myself being able to afford travel, and the reality is that I really can't. But I've been making it work to fly out to see a big orchestral concert of one of my favorite bands once a year. And now it's kind of a tradition after the 3rd time. After the pandemic and all of life's struggles, even before COVID, being able to explore new cities feels like a dream I never could have imagined. So, each time I am able, I always visit a local art museum, try brand new foods at restaurants, find a retro video game store, and wander the city while playing Pokémon GO. So, imagine me on my 2nd ever solo trip across the country in what's possibly my favorite city other than my hometown, after having just completed a field research task to find myself having caught a Hundo Grookey. Aside from Cyndaquil and maybe Totodile, Grookey is probably my favorite starter. So catching it while I'm making memories I'm going to cherish for the rest of my life means the world to me. And that's probably my favorite part. Some of these memories are great because of Pokemon GO, but some of these memories just happen to include Pokemon GO. I'm sure everyone has their own stories to tell, and that's honestly so awesome. My Shundos. Since 2019, I've caught a Shundo almost every single year. In fact, I have 10 total, and I already talked about Entei. So, that just leaves Celebi, Emboar, Venusaur, Barbacle, Blissey, Pikachu, Wooper, Mawile, and Turtonator. So, some people look at that list and think, ha, pathetic. I have so many more than you do. Other people think, bro, what? How? I don't even have one. And everyone else is about to drop a comment about the Shundos in their collection. Celebi. Entei, being my first Shundo, was kind of a banger. Like, How do you top that? What could be cooler than catching a legendary Pokemon and it being both shiny and a hundo? God damn it, you're telling me that your second Shundo ever in Pokemon GO was a fucking Celebi of all things? Celebi, the mythical Pokemon? Celebi, the Pokemon that you only catch one shiny of? That Celebi? Yes. And I'm gonna waste no breath here. This Celebi ruined my life just a little bit. Before I caught this, I was low-key planning on transferring my shiny mythicals to Pokemon Home. But now I can't because Celebi is a Shundo and I would never do that to myself. I've been slowly dumping Candy and Candy XL to try to get this thing to level 50. But I don't know, man. What else could I even say? Emboar. OMG. I remember this one. We were playing Tepic Community Day on the bus. Like normal, we had a couple of friends keeping an eye out for any hundos nearby. And so imagine my surprise when I went to check my Pokemon storage and I noticed the number had gone up by 1. And I was like, did y'all catch a hundo just now? I clicked on the filter to see that I had actually caught a Shundo. I don't believe anyone else caught a hundo at that moment. So it must have been on my incense. And so, you know, I maxed it out right away. I loved Emboar's shiny design with the blue flames and everything. But like, Emboar isn't exactly a showstopper. So imagine my surprise when Legend ZA comes out and Emboar gets a new Mega design. That might not be in Pokemon GO yet, but one day it will be, and I already have it ready to go. Venusaur. Speaking of Shundo Megas, Bulbasaur's Community Day Classic decided to bless me with another to add to the collection. This is after I already had a Hundo Venusaur that I caught naturally, and after I got another one from a lucky trade. So it's not exactly like I really needed another one, but was I happy about it? You bet! I have a screenshot of Bulbasaur from the catch screen, so I must have known it was a Hundo when I caught it. Likely, I was with my friends and we probably saw the notification that there was a hundo nearby on Discord and we ran to it. Barbackle. Bro, I do not like Binacle, and I really don't like Barbackle. But we're playing Pokemon GO Fest 2023, and we're wrapping it up, and my friend Q says that there's a hundo Binacle nearby if we walk fast. And I'm like, heh, sure. Whatever. Another hundo for the collection. I just don't want to waste my luck on it being a Shundo instead of all of the other cooler Pokemon, and god damn it, of course this one turned out to be the Shundo. I even went 5 million years not evolving Binacle because actually I warmed up to that design. Weird. I have a screenshot where I had Sierra from Team Rocket appraise Binacle. I forgot they did that. Anyway, that was fun though. Kind of a useless Shundo. It's not like it has a... God damn it! What? Legend ZA gave Barbacle a Mega form? Okay, fine. I can put my ego aside and, you know, maybe the design isn't so bad. And no, I'm not changing my opinion just because I really like Mega Barbacle's design. So, obviously when I found out, I evolved Binacle and powered it up to level 40 and regretted all of the Binacle I didn't catch because I still don't have enough Candy XL to max it to level 50. Womp womp. Blissey. A couple of friends and I have a recurring joke. The past few years, I haven't really been meeting up with my Pokemon GO friends since I spend more time with family, but every now and then, I sneak away to visit friends, and I joke that we always happen to hang out on Community Day. I mean, makes sense. There are so many Community Days and Community Day classics every year. It's bound to happen a lot. So this time, I distinctly remember we're in the car, probably on the way to the mall or something, and I'm just catching Chanseys since I already had a hundo. You know, trying to take advantage of Community Day to collect Candy XL. And of course, on, and since, because we're in the car, I managed to snag a Shundo Chansey. Like, I wasn't even hunting, and I was blessed anyway. So I maxed it out immediately, and it's my first choice to drop in any gym to defend. Pikachu. I swear I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm not bringing up features just because. If you wanted a deep dive into how the mechanics of Pokemon GO evolved since 2016, you're watching the wrong guy. No, I'm just yapping away with a bunch of little stories strung together poorly. But I kinda like it this way. You'll never know when I'm about to drop some random mechanic. Hey, do you remember when they dropped Party Play? And so now, when you're playing with your friends, you can join a little party group and play together to complete little tasks and get little rewards. Okay, so it's Go Fest 2024, and I'm there with Q and Stacy at Lincoln Park Zoo, and we're just ripping through these tasks, and they're rewarding these costume Pikachu with little crowns, and honestly, it's a convoluted mess. There's too many costume Pikachu if you ask me. Until one of the Pikachu I catch turns out to be a Shundo. And now I love costume Pikachu. Serve me up Pikachu wearing any hat. I'll take it. As long as it's a Shundo. Man, I would love to one day Gigantamax as Pikachu. It can't evolve into Raichu yet, so Mega Evolving is out of the picture. But if it could Gigantamax, that would be so cool. Wooper. Nobody asked, but this was my third Shundo of the year. Yes, 3 Shundos in 1 year. Before this, it was 1 Shundo every single year since Entei. But look at me! Wooper is probably my 3rd favorite Shundo that I have. Not because I just happen to love Wooper, but because it was my first natural Shundo, not a part of any event. He was simply some dude at my friend's apartment. Actually, the whole reason I was there was because we were about to take a road trip to Texas. So now, when I think about this Wooper, I think about spending time with my bestie, being on the road, and eating delicious tacos. Mawile. Okay, so even I forgot. The Mawile is actually my 4th Shundo in 2024. Bruh, it couldn't have waited till 2025? There's nothing particularly special about this Mawile. I was low-key hoping to catch a Hundo to have it be my Mega Pokemon. I pretty much only invest in Mega Evolution when the Pokemon I have is a Hundo. Otherwise, it's a waste of resources, TBH. So, I'm remote raiding, trying to collect some Candy XL in the process, and boom, Shundo. It's been since End Day that I've caught a Shundo in a raid. And, well, at least I was fully able to invest in the Mega Evolution for this Pokemon. Turtonator. Especially in recent years where I haven't been playing as much Pokemon GO as those prime years, I don't really expect a Shundo every year. So, it was crazy that I caught one in 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, and then in 2024. That's a crazy streak that I had ended in 2025. That's just the way that it goes, huh? Then, in February this year, I'm just completing whatever collection challenge was going on that month, and voila! It rewards me with the Shundo Turtonator. I didn't even hunt this thing in raids. Like, I don't have enough candy to even get it to level 40. But it just goes to remind us all that there's no feature left unturned in this video. Pokemon GO Chicago Squad. Weird piece of history for me again. Every now and then, Pokemon GO drops support for older phone models and operating systems. I mean, it makes sense. They want to keep improving the game, and the old hardware eventually can't keep up. Well, in April 2018, I still had an iPhone 5C, and I wasn't about to stop using it. So, when Niantic stopped supporting my phone, I actually stopped playing. Isn't that crazy? Unintentionally, I quit the game. Until that November when I cracked my screen so badly, I couldn't even use the phone anymore. I ended up getting an iPhone XR, and so of course, I was immediately back on my bullshit. As previously mentioned, I started being more active online and tried to join a couple of Facebook groups dedicated solely to the game. As luck would have it, the one that accepted me first was the Pokémon GO Chicago squad. Yep, I posted that shiny Magnemite. I went to a few community day events like the Totodile one, and every now and then I shared Pokémon GO news directly to the group. That was how I participated in the group until there was a day the admin team was hosting a meetup for NT Raid Day in July 2019 and needed an extra hand. So I volunteered. And yep, that first event was when I got my first Shundo. After helping out again for the Suicune Raid Day, the admin team reached out to me and asked me if I wanted to be a moderator in the group, which I said yes. And legit, every month when possible, from August 2019 to March 2020, we hosted meetups at either Navy Pier, Lincoln Park Zoo, or the downtown area. And man, it was so much fun, meeting a ton of new people every single event, just sharing our love for the game. Sometimes I think about how many people I had a chance to spend an afternoon with, who I would have never met. And I got pretty close to the awesome people running the group too. And then the pandemic hit. And well, even the game itself had to change a whole bunch about itself to even survive. The spin distance for Pokestops doubled. Playing community day events from instance alone was an actual feasible strategy. Remote raid passes were added to the game. And obviously so many cool things. And to be fair, a lot of those things stayed or were modified after that whole #Heroes Niantic movement. During that era, our online communities flourished. I mean, even the Discord we started had such a cool vibe, despite the reality of the world. We were still coming together to play a game that we loved together. By 2021, I was promoted to admin. I was helping to keep the group fun, engaging, and safe for everyone. We were also adding new members, removing spam, and de-escalating arguments. It was cool. My friends and I sharing this fun little project together, creating community. So then, why did I leave in 2023? What changed? As per usual, it was entirely a me problem. For the first few months in 2020, I was making infographics and then later reporting news on our website. God, this was such a fun era. I feel like I was really developing a style. These were never going to be as good as Leak Duck or Couple of Gaming or anyone else making them for that matter. I had free time and I was having fun, but I also wanted more. I had all of these ideas. We could have done PvP events, we could have done regular giveaways, we could have made tutorials and blogs and so many things. But I couldn't even keep up with the sheer number of updates the game was constantly getting. And then, I also didn't want to be the Pokémon GO Chicago squad guy. I wanted to be me. I wanted people to show up for me, not my group. And now it's been a few years since. But here I am. This video is exactly the kind of thing I wanted to do all along. Nobody was ever stopping me but myself. And I'm glad I can show up the way that I want to show up. Charizard's 10th birthday. Charizard is one of my most important Pokemon, despite not being my favorite Pokemon. I still have my childhood Charizard from 2005 to this day, and I made a whole video about collecting ribbons across the entire series. And so somehow, my most important Pokemon in Pokemon GO is also a Charizard. Yep, my main bestie from day one is still in my collection. And while I want Pokemon Go to truly be a forever game for me, if there's ever a time servers were going to close, I'd want it to make its way to Pokemon Home. So, of course, right away after catching Charmander, I powered it up possibly 3 times, and that's what you see in this first screenshot, a Charmander at 25 CP. And I think it stayed that way for a long time. I know some people who still regret transferring their starter, but like, at the end of the day, how are we supposed to know? Eventually we'll go on to catch thousands of them. How are we gonna know how special that first one was gonna be? And the truth is, your starter is not special at all. They always have an IV spread of 10 attack, 10 defense, and 10 HP. At this point, I have 5 Shundos that I caught naturally in the wild, 2 of them wearing a fun little party hat. This just happens to be the very first Pokemon you catch in the game. So, I'm not 100% sure of the timeline based on my screenshots, but it seems like the next time I did anything with Charmander is possibly on November 30th, 2018. Yes, this is after I broke my phone and got a new one. Here, you can see Charmander all grown up as Charizard at 163 CP. It's a little on the large side for its weight and height. Clearly, it's not powered up all the way, but it knows Air Slash and Overheat as its main moves. And look at that! Charizard isn't able to learn a second charged attack yet. I completely forgot that you were not able to do so when the game first came out, but that feature would come in less than a week after I took this screenshot during the update that added PvP. Isn't that crazy? By March 31st, 2019, Charizard was finally powered up all the way to level 40. I have a few screenshots along the way at 2323, 2500, 2618, and 2716. During that time, I must have TM'd Air Slash away in favor of Fire Spin. Now, what I want to know, why is the new attack button right below the Stardust in this screenshot? Why did they put it there? Was this when they moved it because too many people were accidentally pressing it instead of the X button? IDK, but that's weird. By 2020, they added the Best Buddy ribbon to Pokemon Go. And so, in this screenshot, you can see Charizard set as my buddy with its ribbon, getting that CP boost up to 2791. I also finally gave it Dragon Claw as its second charged attack. Ooh, and you can see I had already walked 51.5 kilometers with it as my buddy at this point. It looks like in 2020, they also added Elite TMs. So I had Charizard finally forget Overheat and learn Blast Burn as its exclusive charged attack. And, okay, so everything happened in 2020, I guess. They must have been struggling with the pandemic. No wonder why I have such a strong memory of the game being so good back then. Anyway, in 2020, they added Mega Pokemon. So, of course I did a bunch of raid battles to get enough Mega Energy for Charizard's X and Y forms. God, I remember when 4000 CP on a Pokemon was unheard of. And just like that, wow. Charizard X is at 4286 CP, and Pokemon who have 2 Mega forms have to be Mega Evolved all the way through both branches to unlock the maximum perks. So of course, I did that with Charizard. And one more thing. Near the end of 2020, they also announced that level 50 was coming to Pokemon Go. Up until now, level 40 was the max, but with this update, they allowed you to collect Candy XL to power your Pokemon up to level 50. So here's my Charizard with its first Candy XL, and not XL Candy like I wanted to call it, and admittedly still want to call it. God damn it, they also added the tag system to organize your Pokemon. Okay, so first things first, I had to Google when did they add blank to Pokemon Go 5 times in a row. And each time, the answer was 2020. I guess that's the power of everyone staying at home, huh? Anyway, look how ugly the colors were for the tags. Ew, they're so saturated. And geez, I was still figuring out how I wanted to name my tags. TBH, I was so excited for the tags. You can probably tell, but I just think they're neat. It makes my Charizard look dignified, okay? I swear. Ooh. Here's a screenshot from when I managed to Mega Evolve Charizard into Charizard X at 3742 CP with the Best Buddy boost. Okay, I gotta admit, Charizard X is the cooler design, but Charizard Y is the more useful one. So, if you ever see me with Charizard X instead of Charizard Y, I'm just in it for the appearances. Bruh, by July 20, 2021, Charizard had finally reached level 50, capping at 3115 and 3153 with the Best Buddy boost. Once Mega Evolved, Charizard X hits 4845 CP and Charizard Y hits 4177 CP. You can also see I was cooking with the tags. Just let it marinate a little bit longer. This isn't even my final form. Also, weirdly, Charizard lost its status as an XL Pokemon for its weight. Rude. So, my favorite screenshot is from 2024. Back when they introduced Dynamax Pokemon, there was this weird glitch where you could make your Pokemon appear to be Dynamaxed. So, what you would do is Dynamax a Pokemon that was capable, such as the Wooloo you initially got, and then you'd swipe to your next Pokemon, and that Pokemon would appear as if it was Dynamaxed when it actually wasn't. Naturally, I did that immediately with Charizard the first chance I got. And unfortunately, that's kind of the end of the story with Dynamax. As of right now, there is no item you are able to buy that will grant your Pokemon the Dynamax factor, let alone the Gigantamax factor. And I mean, I get it. If there was such an item, you know it would be monetized. And obviously, I kinda had high hopes from it. From the moment tags were introduced, I immediately tagged my Charizard with a custom Gigantamax tag, just waiting for the day, 4 years later, when they wouldn't just let me fucking do it already. Like, hello, it's possible for a Pokemon to be able to Mega Evolve and Dynamax in the game. I know it's possible because I have a Charizard who I caught in a Dynamax raid as a Charmander who I later Mega Evolved just to see if I could. But alas, I was too preoccupied with whether or not I could, I didn't stop to think if I should. I mean, obviously you can't do both at the same time. Before you say anything, maxed mushrooms are in fact in Pokemon GO. If you played Pokemon Sword and Shield, you might be thinking, cool, that's what they used to make the Gigantamax soup in the DLC. So obviously you can just use that, right? Wrong! All that item does is double the damage your Pokemon deals in max battle raids for 30 minutes. You can't even make a lovely soup out of them all these years later. But like, they will, right? One day, right? Any day now, right? So, at this point of the video, you might be like, okay, Carcassonne, but I don't get it. My Shundo Charizard with a special background and a costume maxes out at level 50 with a CP of 3266. So why does yours still suck? Well, my dear internet hater, there's just one more thing left to add. Bottle caps. Somehow, after all these years, they added bottle caps to Pokemon GO in 2025. And so, on July 28, I gave my Charizard a gold bottle cap to raise its stats. The game gives you a year to complete a series of tasks per each stat. I finished all of the HP tasks first, followed by the defense tasks, and finally, the attack tasks. By August 15, Charizard completed its hyper training and was officially a hundo. Its new maximum CP is now 3305 in its base form, 4405 in its Mega X form, and 5097 in its Mega Y form. I want you to imagine everyone else is bottle capping their shiny Mewtwo or Rayquaza, or better yet, they're bottle capping their shiny Mew or Eternatus, or perhaps another one-time capture. Not me. I bottle capped Charizard, a Pokemon I already had 5 hundos of in my collection. Likewise, I want you to imagine all of the people who transferred their starter. And that's okay. In the grand scheme of things, who cares? If I were to ever trade this Charizard to someone else, to them, it'd just be some more candy from the professor. It matters a lot to me though. Look at all the things we did together. In 2019, when they added all of that best buddy stuff, they also added souvenirs to the game. So, once your Pokemon was an Ultra Buddy, it would start finding souvenirs. Honestly, most people would think they're largely pointless collectibles. Sure, they give you an extra friendship point once your Pokemon finds one, but they're not a daily thing. You can see here that I have 12 out of a possible 15 that Charizard had collected. That's kind of cool, right? The part that gets me is when you click on them, the game makes a record of when and where you received it. I've gone on a few trips across the country in recent years, and I've been making sure to set Charizard as my buddy whenever I do so lately. So now, Charizard has collected a souvenir from Denver, Salem, Seattle, Orlando, and more. And now, it's a tradition for me to try to collect a souvenir whenever I fly somewhere new. And that's the whole purpose of this game. Exploration. God damn it, they got me. Weirdly, Charizard has one more updates in this video. Scopely, or whoever owns Niantic, announced Mega Mewtwo X and Y are coming to Pokemon GO Fest 2026. They'll be using the new Super Mega Pokemon feature, and as a result, both Mega forms are going to have separate Mega energy, unlike Charizard, who you can use the same energy for both X and Y forms. So, to ruin my life with weird user interface, they separated Charizard's 2 Mega form energies. What a boring conclusion to this particular saga. Conclusion. Originally, I had a section titled Pikachu's Biggest Blunders, that I was going to talk about all the biggest controversies about Pokemon GO. Initially, I was thinking about the first Pokemon GO Fest in 2017, and then the hashtag Kira's Niantic campaign, but then I thought, someone else could make that video. I wanted to tell my own story, and what Pokemon GO means to me is much more than all of that. One of the best parts of Pokemon games is how you're encouraged to go on your own journey. Perhaps, on a surface level, we each have similar goals and outcomes, but the paths we take are unique. What are the chances someone else out there has the exact same combination of shinies and hundos as me? No one else has caught these specific Pokemon at the specific locations I was at, with the specific people I was with. I mean, look at this collage that Niantic posted from the 2020 Pokemon GO Fest. That's me. I'm in there multiple times. I remember posting that to Twitter. Truly, for the first time in the Pokemon series, we get to be the main character. Truly, for the first time in the Pokemon series, we get to be the main character. That's the gift we've been given the past 10 years of this game. This is the only time we're seeing Carcass 8 as the original trainer. Really feels like it's me. I don't represent anyone. I'm not Ash or Red. I'm not even Carcass 8 or Carlos 0000. I'm just Carlos. I caught these Pokemon. Some of them walked alongside me for miles. Some of them battled alongside me against raids, gyms, rocket grunts, and even other trainers hundreds of times. Some of them I caught when I was still a young adult, trying to figure out who I wanted to be. And some of them I caught already knowing who I am, already knowing where I want to go. I caught them across the country, sometimes alone, sometimes with my best friends in the entire world. I caught them surrounded by complete strangers, some of whom may not even know anything about Pokemon at all. And yet, in the last 10 years, they were there as I set out to catch them all, to make memories and friends, to spend an afternoon being out there in the world. Pokemon Go brought something back to me at a time of my life where I felt like I lost myself. It allowed me to fall in love with video games again, to relive my childhood again, and to bring new life into what I thought had died in me. There may come a day where I don't get to remember my times playing Pokemon Go. Perhaps the game might even outlive me, but who knows? I hope Pokemon Go lasts forever, but it doesn't have to. It's already something special that'll stick with me for the rest of my life. Fuck! I forgot to say that my favorite Pokemon Go memory is when Spark dabbed.